This is a poorly put together map, which I just drew myself, but you get the gist of it. So I guess the best way to start with is each country has its own interest, and Australia's #1 interest is the sea. We're a resource-rich country that pretty much, let's just be honest here, we dig holes, we put them on boats, and we sell it throughout Asia, and that's where we get our money. The real reason why in the beginning we were allied with Britain was simply because the maritime trade, and we just wanted to be able to get our ships safely through here without having to deal with other countries in taking our ships, blowing up our ships, or pirates or anything going wrong. So when Britain had Hong Kong, Britain dominated this region. They even controlled India at one stage, and we were 100% allied with India at that stage, with England at that stage. And the reason why, I know you guys might think, oh, it's because we're white, because we speak English, blah, blah, blah. That is not the real reason. The real reason is to secure our maritime trade, because we just want to get our ships through here, and if we can't get our ships through here, the entire economy just collapses, and we will literally collapse within 6 months and become a third world country. You probably never heard that before, but that's the facts. Now, America. Ask yourself, why is Australia allied with America? There's only one reason. It's simply because we dig holes, we put them on boats, and we send these ships through Asia so that we can sell our resources. These resources are cheap per tonnage. They're not very expensive, so therefore we don't really make very much money. But these ships have to be big, they're very slow, and they go all the way through Asia. That's where we get our money. And recently, China's been expanding, and they've become quite aggressive. This is the South China Sea. A lot of our ships, if you look at the trading routes, like I guess we could go through here, or we could go through. We could probably go through here. We need to eventually go through. We have to go through Indonesia, Singapore. If we want to get to China, 7% of our entire GDP comes from Korea, Japan. When you look at it, all of our trade goes through there. What happens if we are cut off? We can't. What are we going to trade with Antarctica? We're just going to be self-sufficient. No country is really no first world country is self-sufficient. So another factor which you guys probably aren't aware of is that all of our oil is refined up here in Singapore. And if we are cut off at any stage through Singapore or through this entire area here, the entire country will become a third world country literally overnight. It is really that simple. And so where are my hypotheses coming from right now? Indonesia. China is militarized here. They might be telling me that they're peaceful and whatnot, but why are they building these islands that have guns on them? It's like someone putting a gun to your head and saying, hey, and you're like, hey, please, stop doing that. They're like, what? Militarize the sea. That means that at any stage they can blockade us and shut our oil supply off. The cars that you drive in Australia, the buses, the transport, everything would literally just shut down overnight if we can't get our oil from Singapore. Now, Indonesia. My theory is that we are going to have to go to war with Indonesia if there is a war up here in North Korea. America is planning to go to war with North Korea. I'm sure you guys are all aware of that because you just watch the mainstream media. If they were to bomb here, who is the #1 best friend with China? China, by the way, in 15 years, they built more infrastructure than it took America to build in 100 years. So don't think that underneath there are tunnels that are able to supply North Korea. And there's also Russia. This place is very valuable to China, and we don't know necessarily what their reaction is going to be if there's going to be bombing of North Korea. North Korea might seem like a simple third world, really poor country to take out, but it's not going to be that simple, because if you look at the entire system that is being created around this one trigger point, it's far more difficult than that. Now, Russia, who has no influence, no real economic ties in this area, they have been arming Indonesia. A lot of Indonesia's military, air force, navy is coming from Russia, and Russia doesn't care. So Russia is behind China. Russia doesn't care if they militarize this area because they don't have any real economic ties in this area. So therefore, China can just play dumb and be like, well, you know, they can save face. They don't have to make out that they're behind it, but effectively they're convincing Russia to militarize Indonesia. And Indonesia's goal, effectively, if you just look at what they're actually doing, their goal is to blockade Australia. So if there's a trigger point there, we can almost, with some sort of certainty, say that Australia has to go to war with Indonesia. And in December, if you want to, you don't believe me, Google Indonesia-Russian military alliance, Indonesia-Russia military drills, something like that. You can Google it yourself, and you'll discover that the Russian nuclear bombers that can carry nuclear weapons, came down here, and they refueled here, and they flew across the top of Australia to let Australia know that they can drop nukes on Australia at any point. This was 2 months ago, in preparation for what I foresee is the possible war that we might have in March or April with North Korea. Now, Russia, through Indonesia, has given a big warning to Australia to stay out, and we really don't have any choice, because our fuel comes from here and we have to trade through here. And if we don't have access to here, Australia's in a lot of trouble. So another factor is Harry Harris. You can Google Harry Harris if you want. His name's Harry Harris. He is a 4-star admiral. A 4-star admiral is almost the same ranking as General MacArthur. If you haven't heard of General MacArthur is the guy that pretty much came in, took out Japan, Korea in World War II. Harry Harris is a 4-star admiral. He's the highest ranking possible admiral that you could possibly have in the military in peacetime, and he is going to be stationed in Darwin. He has 250,000 troops, American troops, under his command, and he's going to be stationed here. If that's not a signal that something serious is going to happen in this region, a 4-star admiral is coming to Australia. You don't put a 4-star admiral or take one out of the US unless something very big is about to happen, and he is about to land in Australia right now. So what is driving China? We don't really know exactly what they're thinking, and that is another factor which I'd like to address right now. Is it's about 6K per capita. There's people say it's 1.3, but I'll probably say 1.5 billion people. It's 6K per capita. It's not a very with the amount of people there, their standard of living is pretty low. Australia, all the way down here, is about 46, 47K per capita. That is the type of standard of living that the Chinese aspire to. Now, this country here, last year, made more money than Australia has in the last 20 years. But they have such a huge population, and in 2016, January 1, 2016, they got rid of the one-child policy, so this population is only going to get bigger. Now, they made about something like $22 trillion this country last year, and this country made about 1-point-something trillion. Not very much, but we have a small population. For this country to get to this certain this amount of 46K per capita, to have the standard of living that we do, they literally, there's not enough earth, and it is when you really think about it, it is a zero-sum game when it comes to the earth. For them to get to this amount, I don't know, what do they have to get? Like 120 trillion dollars per year they have to make to have the standard of living that we have. It's a ridiculous amount of money. What's $20 trillion? So if you want to have an idea of what $20 trillion is, go to the UK, all the way to Russia, go all the way down to, say, Egypt, and go all the way to Spain, the entire Europe. You're into every single storefront, shop, every single petrol station. You empty the stores, you empty all of the supermarkets, empty everything. It still wouldn't equate to about $20 trillion. Just to give you a perspective of how much $20 trillion is, it is a huge amount. And for China to get to the standard of living that Australia has, we literally need to have another Earth, Earth 2, and we need to enslave them and make them send a lot of cheap products to China so that they can have this type of standard of living. It's overpopulated. There's not enough people on planet Earth to help them get the standard of living that they've got. And in a way, the leaders of China are in this, they're in a bad situation because they're trying to get this standard of living and they cannot actually get it for this huge population of people, and they're on the expanse too. So that's why they militarized here. They want to have access to everybody's trades routes so that they can effectively charge people. So you catch a train, or you drive through a tunnel or something, you've got to pay a toll. You can imagine every country that has to trade through having to pay a toll to China. But still, this 6K per capita, they have to get a lot of money for their standard of living to rise anywhere near what Australia's is. So Australia's really a spoiled country in comparison to China. We have it so good. What's happening over here is China has just brought Colombo, which is in Sri Lanka. They have they're building this port so that they can take advantage of the trade going through to Europe, and they've also put a lot of money into Pakistan at the top. Keep in mind, Russia has put a lot of, sold a lot of military hardware to Pakistan, and they're aiming them pretty much at India. India and Pakistan have been having a lot of skirmishes lately. They've been shooting each other on the border recently. I'm sure you're probably not quite aware of that, but that is a really big flashpoint right now, and things could ignite at any moment. And at the moment, all the way around here, China has started to put a lot of their navy around here to, in a way, secure Colombo, their trading routes, but also put a lot of pressure on India. And India right now is starting to see that they are, in a way, surrounded. And to me, this shows that China's #1 threat, the only country in the world that China actually fears, is India. From looking at what we're seeing right now, there's only one country that China really fears, and that's India. They don't really fear America, or they would have defused North Korea a very long time ago. It seems to me, in a way, that they want to push America as hard as they can, and they don't see America as a threat. Now, so I've put a lot of thought into why they think that. When you think about it, they have these factories that can rebuild their military twice as fast, or even 3 times as fast as America. So if they were to go to war with America right now, it would probably be a massive war, or just a proxy war with here and a proxy war here and a proxy war all around the place. But what would happen is both countries' militaries will be almost decimated, and then afterwards they would go into peacetime for about 10-20 years. China will be able to rebuild their military twice as fast as America, and at that point America will be on the back foot big time. China is able to rebuild faster than any other country on earth. This is where their main advantage is. January 1st, 2016, China got rid of the one-child policy, so they are going through a baby boom. Just like the Western world went through the baby boomers, China's baby boomers will be they will be between 18 and 21 in, say, 2034 through to, say, 2040. This period of time, they will have the largest population of men in that age range, in the perfect age range for working and military service, of course, than any other country on planet Earth, and they will have the financial means for it. So if China was to trigger a war right now and they were to have a stalemate with America, they would be able to rebuild their military twice or 3 times as fast and have such an enormous military in comparison to America by 2034 than any other country on Earth, and they will not be able to be beaten. So this is why this is playing out right now, and it is all part of China's plan, and America is playing into their game right now by entering into this battle, because America will probably have a good fight right now because they still have a very, very good military, but they will not be able to rebuild their military as fast as America. So by 2034 through to 2040, they will not be able to combat China's military. So this is all part of China's plan for world domination. And so the part of the deal with the 6K per capita, we go back to that. So where are they going to get the extra what? So it's 22 trillion per year. Where are they going to get the extra, what, 80 to 100 trillion dollars per year to get this type of standard of living? Well, in a way, when you think about it, there's 3 or more, there's 1.5 or more billion people in Asia that will effectively, their economies will have to crash. The RMB will become the reserve currency of the world, and so their buying power will become enormous, and they will go from exporters to importers, and all of these countries that surround China will have to become, in a way, economic slaves to them, and for them to have an extra $80 trillion to their GDP, that kind of spells doom for every other human being within the vicinity of China, if not the entire world. So that's really my predictions for how things are going to play out. There's a lot of other things that I have been following and watching. The Australian Navy has left 3 days ago to leave to Darwin, and then they're going to head off into the South China Sea. Apparently America is already playing in South China Sea right now. They have their one of their biggest aircraft, nuclear-powered aircraft carriers in the sea right now. So also, when I speak to Australians, they're not aware of any of this stuff. Today I just spoke to a guy who exports a lot of goods throughout Asia, and he's like, how's that going to affect me? I was like, well, if the ships don't go through there, how's your business going to run? He's like, oh. Think about this as well. If there was to be a stalemate and there were to be a whole load of ships from Australia going through here, just say you've got a ship going through Indonesia and a military ship that is painted black and it's got a pirate's face on the side or a skull on the side, and the captain of this ship happened to speak Bahasa Indonesia or he speaks Mandarin, and he was to blow up your ship or just commandeer it and take all of your goods, well, that's a pirate. Who are you going to complain to? There's no international police that's going to protect your goods or your trade. They've already had an international tribunal for this area right here to try and claim it back from China, but they just militarized it. You can't argue with guns. So that is really I guess, my predictions for what could unfold here. Also, up in South Korea, they have a lot of weapons pointed at South Korea up here. And if there was to be a war with North Korea, I think South Korea, if you look at some of my older videos, I've kind of made fun of South Koreans. When I've made fun of South Koreans in the past, it's simply because I think this might be the Trojan horse. This is the, well, how can I draw a horse? This is the this is the Trojan horse for this is the USA's Trojan horse. I don't know, just my prediction, I can see South Korea turning their backs on America, and I have foreseen that for quite a few years. So if you go through the history of my videos, some of my older videos where I've kind of made fun of Korea, that is because I've kind of seen them as that Trojan horse that could turn their back on America, and if America gets pushed out of there, Japan will be in a lot of trouble. Those poor Japanese, yeah, the cameraman just did this. Those poor Japanese, because this generation isn't responsible for what 2 generations or 3 generations did, but in China's not going to see it that way. They're going to be like, you got to pay for what your ancestors did, and Japan and China have a long history. These countries like North Korea, this is an example of what happens when you are allied with China, unfortunately. This country is a basket case, it is a dictatorship, people are poor, it's not very good being North Korean. Would you like to be a North Korean? Probably not. Well, South Korea is what happens when you're allied with America. So South Korea has a really good standard of living. They have lots of amazing companies in South Korea. They have K-pop. These guys can get laid anywhere in the world. They have big companies like Samsung, and they create cars. And North Korea, these guys can't even leave the country. They got nothing going for them. They can't even eat possibly, except the best business they got going is join up with the military and work out how to create nuclear weapons. So this is what happens when you, if China was to take over this entire region, it's not going to look pretty for every other country that has to submit to them. And in reality, even Taiwan, which, sorry, I'm not even allowed to say the T word, but Taiwan and all these other places, nobody here actually wants China to rule this area. Let's just be honest. Vietnam, nobody wants China to rule this region because they know that they're going to rule it with an iron fist. This area is peaceful and was peaceful for a very long time, and has never been as militarized as China has militarized it recently. So if you want to understand why Australians don't really know, or they don't really care, they're starting to panic about the South China Sea, it's because our entire economy relies on the South China Sea. Everything comes from there. If we can't get the oil, and if we can't get any ships through here, the entire economy will collapse within 6 months. So we'll go from a first world country all the way through to a third world country within 6 months if we are blockaded and Indonesia was to destroy our military. So the plan for Australia, okay, what would be the plan for Australia? We have an altercation with Indonesia. They destroy our military. We get blockaded. There's pirates coming through here, so we can't get any money through. China does a deal with Australia, and they say, look, we will save you. We will send peacekeepers to Australia. So, then they'll probably sign some sort of a deal with Australia, overthrow the government, they'll come in here, allow us to trade again, but this place will become China, and they will be ruled by China, and then all of the money will actually flow through to China, and this will add to their per capita, their gains. So that's in a way what I see the plan for Australia is: a limited war with Indonesia, the destruction of our military, blockading of our country so we become a third world country, the Australian dollar just collapse, and then they can just come in here, peacekeepers come in here, overtake Australia, and then everything changes, our way of life changes. We become ineffectively a third world country, and we just sell even cheaper resources through to China, and that would probably be our future if all of this was to unfold like the way that I possibly could see it. There will be a war between India and Pakistan, but you can see China is looking at India right now, and they're getting pretty feisty right now as well. So a few of my predictions are based on all of this stuff that is unfolding right now. And also there's this other problem with Australia, is that we're called racist. So it's like you hold a gun to someone, this is a gun, holding a gun to our heads, the threat of blockading us and militarizing this place which has never been militarized before. And when the Australian Prime Minister says, hey, look, China's militarizing this, we just want free trade to go through here, China's like, they're racist. So when you hold a gun to my head, I'm like, hey, dude, I just want to trade. And then the guy holding the gun's like, you're racist. No, I'm not racist. Like, Australia is full of Chinese, and we're the most welcoming country on earth. It's just, we want to be able to trade through this place, and we want freedom of trade, freedom of navigation, so that our economy can still survive. So that's pretty much a basic overview of what is happening right now in Asia. If you're not sure about it, I just thought I'll throw it together kind of quick for you guys because I don't really have much time these days. If you like this video, click the subscribe button, click that like button if you agree. Let me know in the comments what you think about what I said. If you disagree with what I said, I doubt you do because it's pretty obvious to anybody with half a brain. So click the subscribe button and I'll see you guys. I don't know, this might be the last video I'll make for quite a while, but we'll see how it goes, and I'll see you guys whenever that is.